What if the next cold email in your inbox completely changed your life? That's exactly what happened to one founder, Todd William. For over a decade, Todd had built a thriving online reputation agency called Reputation Rhino. He helped clients repair their public image, manage crises, and restore their online credibility. But behind the scenes, Todd was ready for a change. He wasn't desperate to sell. In fact, he wasn't even looking. Then one day, in the middle of COVID, an email lands in his inbox. And for the first time, unlike the hundreds before, he opened this one to read it. That email was from me. And it set into motion a series of events that allowed me and Todd to exit his company, Reputation Rhino, for a multi-million-dollar exit. In this video, I'll take you behind the scenes on what Todd did to turn his boutique PR agency into a multi-million-dollar exit. I'll also share what we did to make buyers compete for it and the exact steps that helped him walk away on top. Because if you've ever thought your business was too small, too niche, too owner-dependent, Todd's story will make you think twice. Hi, I'm Nate Lind, and I sell companies like realtors sell homes. Specifically, companies where owners can run them remotely, like SaaS, e-commerce, technology, and professional service firms that are making anywhere between $1 and $30 million a year. I've been selling companies for over a decade, and in just the last few years, I've managed over 75 transactions, closing $123 million worth of business as an M&A advisor. If your business has strong, positive cash flow and a buyer can run it from any location, chances are I already know someone who wants to buy it. In fact, if that's the case, I can guarantee you I can find you 40 buyers and an LOI in 4 months or less. Todd William isn't your typical founder. Back in 2011, Todd noticed something nobody else is paying attention to. Companies were spending millions polishing their reputation through ads and press releases. Yet when you Googled them, you'd still see one-star reviews, lawsuits, and outdated articles sitting on page 1. Todd realized if you don't control your online reputation, it controls you. That insight became the spark for Reputation Rhino, a boutique digital PR and reputation management company that didn't just hide bad press, it buried them under better stories. Over the next 11 years, Todd built a trusted name in the space. He worked with executives, small businesses, and even a few public figures who needed to rebuild their online credibility. The agency grew steadily, producing nearly $1 million in revenue a year. He had lean operations and loyal clients. It was consistent, dependable, and entirely self-funded. But by 2021, things started to shift. The excitement of building had been replaced by the weight of maintaining. Todd had relocated to Israel for family and religious reasons, but his team was still operating from the USA. And then one day, my email lands in Todd's inbox. It wasn't the first of its kind, not even close. He later told me that he'd received hundreds of sell your business messages over the years, and every single one went straight to his trash folder. But this one, he said, felt different. It was personal and not pushy. No overpromises, no generic pitch, just an honest, simple question. Have you ever thought what your business might actually be worth? That one line caught his attention. It stood out because it didn't sound like everybody else trying to sell something to him. A few days later, Todd replied, asking for a call. We arranged a time, and from the first few minutes, I could tell he was sharp. A data-driven founder who knew his numbers, his clients, and his industry cold. He wasn't calling to be convinced. He was calling to understand. That first conversation set the tone for everything that followed. We talked about Reputation Rhino's history, its financials, and its positioning in the market. It was clear to me this wasn't a small local PR shop. It was an established digital reputation management agency with 11 years of credibility, consistent revenue, and a recognizable brand. It owned top SEO spots for reputation management on Google. He lived and breathed reputation management and put it into place for his own company too. This call wasn't about me trying to sell my service. It was about showing Todd what was possible, and that after learning more about his business, to verify to him that there were real, qualified buyers interested in his business and there would be demand for it. And that single conversation kicked off an 8-month journey together that resulted in one of the cleanest and most competitive exits I've ever managed. Once Todd and I decided to move forward, the first thing I wanted to understand was what kind of story the numbers were telling. Reputation Rhino had been around for 11 years, bringing in around $923,000 a year in top-line gross revenue. Of that, roughly $700,000 in profit, and consistently growing. When I ran the valuation and checked the comps, the business came in around $2.5 million. The books were spotless. The tax returns matched the P&L, the margins were stable, and there was no cleanup accounting to be done. That made the business perfect for an SBA 7A pre-approval. The SBA 7A program is a financing structure that lets a buyer put down about 20%, and then a bank backed by the SBA finances the rest of the loan for 10 years. It's basically the M&A version of a mortgage, and it instantly opens the floodgate to a lot of qualified buyers. Because when an SBA is pre-approved, buyers know it's profitable, proven, and financeable. But having clean books isn't enough. Buyers also need to see why the business matters. So we reframed Reputation Rhino's story, not as a boutique PR agency, but as a plug-and-play growth engine for another agency, something a larger firm could acquire and expand overnight. Then we built what I call the buyer teaser. This is the narrative I share with buyers before they sign an NDA. It has the year the business was formed, it has the top line sales, it has a bottom line profit, and it shares some information about how many employees and contractors are involved in the business. Something that the buyer can understand what the team looks like. Because here's the truth. Buyers don't pay for numbers. They pay for profit certainty. And this teaser communicates certainty and incites interest and excitement. Once this teaser was ready, it was time to go to market. The moment the listing went live, the response was immediate. Within days, my inbox was full. By the end of the first few weeks, 163 buyers had signed the NDA, all of them eager to learn more about Reputation Rhino. I had such a huge volume of interested buyers that I didn't need any more marketing after the first initial email outreaches. That's what the SBA pre-approval does. It turns a well-run business into a deal that everybody wants a piece of. But my job wasn't just to collect names and NDAs. It's to find the right buyer. So I filtered hard. I personally vetted each lead, narrowing it down to just a handful I thought were the perfect, serious contenders. People who had proof of their down payment, confirmed their end of the SBA pre-approval process with a high credit score, buyers with the experience and the strategic vision to grow what Todd had started. As Todd put it, I saved him from hunting and fishing for buyers, since I already knew who would be a good fit. And that's because I've done this a lot, and I know exactly what to look for. There was this one group that stood out to me, a Florida-based digital marketing firm that immediately saw the synergy. They wanted to integrate Reputation Rhino into their services and immediately grow into the online reputation management space. But of course, no deal goes perfectly. The average deal breaks 9 times through the M&A process, and we have to put it back together each time. One issue came up halfway through the deal. The buyer's bank, the one they've worked with for years on other acquisitions, just couldn't get the SBA done for this one. It wasn't experienced with this type of business. That bank wasn't familiar with these types of businesses and these types of transactions. I'd actually seen this coming. Earlier on in the process, I asked the buyer to use my preferred SBA finance broker, someone I've used reliably over the years who specializes in these types of transactions with these types of industries and can shop the loan around to multiple lenders and get an approval and a backup if we need it. But the buyer was adamant that they stick with their bank first. Several months later, we were sitting around and the process had stalled. Fortunately, the buyer came back to me and said, "Hey Nate, who is that you recommended again?" I reconnected them, and within a few weeks, the financing was approved and the deal was back on track again. Throughout it all, Todd and I managed the entire process from different time zones. he in Israel and me in the US. Every week, we had calls with the buyers, the lenders, and the attorneys to keep the momentum going. Todd later told me how he was impressed with how I quarterbacked the entire process, how I kept problems shared instead of making them his sole responsibility. And that's exactly what I do. 8 months and 26 days from the time that he first opened that email from me, a wire cleared. A sweet 7-figure wire, which I can't disclose the exact amount. Reasons I'm sure you'd appreciate after I sold your business. I can say that all in, it was higher than his original asking price. For Todd, it wasn't as much about the money as what it represented. 11 years of work, hundreds of clients helped, and a business built from nothing that somebody now wants to carry the torch forward. He didn't throw a party. There wasn't a champagne moment. He told me it felt more like relief. The quiet satisfaction of something that you built that ended well. The buyer was thrilled, the handover was smooth, and the deal transitioned without surprises. But that clean finish was no accident. It was the result of structure, documentation, and mutual trust. Todd later told me how I had made the complex M&A process manageable. He even said in a testimonial after the sale that if there were ever another business he had to sell, there's only one person he would call, and that's me. Testimonials and moments like that are why I love this work. Because every founder starts with a vision, but very few get to end the story on their own terms. Todd did. And that's what made this deal special. Every deal I close teaches me something new. But this one, with Todd, left a few lessons I think every founder should hear. Lesson 1. You don't need to create a massive company to create massive value. Reputation Rhino sold for millions, not because it was big, but because it was solid. It had clean operations, repeatable systems, and real, provable profit via tax returns. Buyers pay for consistent profit, not flash. Lesson number 2. The way you run your business today determines how sellable it is tomorrow. Todd didn't actually build with an exit in mind. He just kept clean books, documented his processes, and ran things professionally. That discipline turned into leverage when it came time to sell. Because when a buyer opens your books and doesn't find surprises, it builds instant trust, and trust drives higher offers. Lesson number 3. Storytelling sells as much as spreadsheets. When we positioned Reputation Rhino as a plug-and-play reputation engine, it reframed how buyers saw the business. It wasn't just a boutique PR firm. It was a strategic bolt-on that could instantly scale someone's portfolio. That story made the difference between mild interest and 163 buyers competing for it. But maybe the biggest lesson of all is this. Selling your business doesn't mean the end to your entrepreneurial story. For Todd, it meant freedom, to live anywhere, to focus on his family, and to close a chapter he built from scratch on his own terms. And that's what a really great exit is. Not luck, not timing, but the reward for running your business the right way, long before it ever came time to sell. Todd's story wasn't about luck. It was about being ready. He built a solid business and ran it cleanly. When the right opportunity came along, he was prepared to act. That preparation turned into a multi-million-dollar exit and the freedom to start his next chapter. Most founders never get there, not because their business isn't good enough, but because they don't know how close they already are. And that's exactly why I built the Maximum Exit System. It's the same framework I used to help Todd sell Reputation Rhino, designed to show you what your business could be worth. I'll show how buyers will see it and what to do to prepare long before it's time to sell. If you want to find out what your company might be worth, or what to fix now to make it more sellable later, then click the link below. It's a short intake form. It takes less than 2 minutes, but it could change how you think about your business forever. Because the truth is, your best exit won't happen by accident. It'll happen by design.